All right, welcome back. So now we're going to get into the next section, which is 1.3, which is adding integers. So to begin, let's first define a common word for when we're talking about adding numbers. So the result from an addition problem is called the sum. So anytime you see that word sum, you should automatically be thinking in the back of your mind, I'm adding something up. Sum means addition. So when adding two numbers, we can make use of the number line to see what the sum should be. So this is a really good way to kind of wrap your brain around what exactly is happening when I'm adding two different numbers together. Now, instinctually, we know how to add positive numbers. So we know that 3 plus 4 equals 7. But what does it look like? What does 3 plus 4 look like on a number line? So we can do it like this. So the big thing to keep in mind is that we should always start at 0. 0 is your starting point. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's our number line. And so now if we're starting at 0, I'm just going to put a vertical line right at 0. And then we're going to start our path. So the path says we want to first go positive 3. So positive 3 means we want to go to the right 3 units. So we're going to draw an arrow till we get to 3. And that's our first stop. So we're going over 3. But then the problem says I want you to go an additional 4 units to the right. Because again, it's positive 4. So now we got to keep going from where we left off. And we want to go 4 more units. So that stops us at 7. So we went 3 units to the right initially. We went 4 more units to the right. So we ended up at 7. Now, what about if the numbers are negative? What does that mean? Well, you can probably guess positive numbers made us go to the right. So if they're negative, we better go to the left. So it's the same idea. We want to first start at 0. And now since we got a couple of negatives, let's just start over to the left a little bit, or excuse me, to the right a little bit further. And we'll get some negatives in here. Now, so again, we're starting at 0. So they first want you to go to the left 2 units. So if we start at 0, we want to go left 2 units. So that first stop is going to be at negative 2. But then it wants you to go an additional 3 units again to the left. So from that spot, we want to go this direction, and that stops us at negative 5. So negative 5 should be the answer. All right, so that's a couple of scenarios that are similar because they're going the same direction. But what about when we mix it up a little bit? What does that look like? Well, we can still do the same thing. Remember, we always want to start at 0. So now because we're going a couple of different directions, I'm going to put 0 in the middle. So the first thing they want you to do is go to the left 4 units. So I'll start at 0, and I'm going to go to the left 4 units. So that's going to take me all the way to negative 4. But then what happens is I want you to go an additional 6 units back to the right. So from where we left off, we're going to go back 6 units to the right. So we're going to go back the 4 we went, and we got to go a couple of extra ones to go a total of 6 units. So we went 4 to the left, 6 to the right, so we ended up at positive 2. So the answer should be a positive 2. Okay, let's do one more, and then we're going to see some rules that kind of summarize what's going on here. So the first thing we want to do is go 8 units, and it's positive, so we want to go to the right 8 units from 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want to go all the way to there. So that's 8 units to the right. But now they want you to go 15 units back to the left. So we're going to, from this 8, we got to go back the 8 units we went, and we got to keep on going. So we're going to go, 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 go. And it turns out we're going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more spaces. So that's going to put us at -7 once we go 15 to the left. So -7 should be our answer there. So, you don't have to draw these pictures for all these problems. That's not what I want you to do. But if you can try to get a visual picture in your mind and say, okay, I got to go this way first, and then I'm going to go back this way, or I'm going to keep going the same direction. You can use that mental number line in your head as a way to kind of visualize what's going on with these problems. Now, the problems are going to get more challenging, so that's going to be something you're not going to be able to do as easily. But for these first problems, it kind of gets your head in the right direction, so to speak. So that's what I would recommend. Now, if you're beyond this, that's great. And if you want to just cut to the chase, well, the chase is down here. So here's the rules. There's 2 scenarios that you hopefully have observed in these 4 problems. So now, if we examine more closely, we have 2 cases. So if adding 2 numbers with the same sign, add the absolute values of the numbers and make the answer with the same sign. So that was the first 2 problems we did. Both of the numbers were positive. Both of the numbers were negative, so they had the same sign in those cases. So we were technically adding those numbers together. So we just kind of ignored the signs for a minute. We know 3 plus 4 is 7. We know 2 plus 3 is 5, but because they were negative, the answer's got to be negative. That's the first rule, when the signs are the same for the 2 numbers you're adding. But when the numbers are different, now we want to actually subtract them. That's what was happening in these last 2 examples. We subtracted the numbers. So subtract the smaller from the larger and then make the answer have the sign of the larger one. So in this first one here, okay, first thing we notice is that they have different signs. So because they're different and we're adding, we're technically subtracting. I know, it's weird. So if we say 6 minus 4, we get 2, but it's a positive 2 because 6 was the bigger one. Now, look at this one, 8 and -15. We're adding, they're different signs, so really we got to subtract them. 15 minus 8 is 7, but because 15 is the larger one, -15 is the larger one, we want to keep that negative sign on our answer for that one. So really the bigger one dominates and keeps the sign of the larger one when you're subtracting. So again, it's a little bit funky in how it works, but again, you can visualize it with the number line, or you can just try to remember the rules. Eventually you want to try to remember the rules. That's the best way to do it. So let's do the first example problems, and then we're going to stop the video and jump into another one. We don't want these videos to get too long, right? So, okay. So now let's try the first one. We got -12 plus a -15. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, are we really adding them or are we really subtracting them? And it's all based on if they're the same or if they're different. So in this case, they are the same. So technically, we really do want to add those 2 numbers together. So if we add them, 12 and 15 is 27. But because they're both negative, we know the answer is -27. Done. That's using the first rule. Let's look at the second one. -13 plus +7. Well, the signs are different. If they're different, we know we have to subtract. So if we subtract those 2, 13 minus 7 is 6. And is it +6 or -6? You better be screaming at me it's negative, because 13 is the bigger one and it's negative. So -6 should be our answer here. 24 and -32. Signs are different. You got to subtract. So if we subtract those, now if you're a little rusty doing some subtraction like this, it doesn't hurt to use a calculator or use your fingers, whatever you got to do. Just, make sure you're getting it right, and then make sure you get the right sign on it. Now it should be negative because the 32 is the bigger one. Okay, what about this one? -41 plus 58. Signs are different, so we better subtract. So now is the answer going to be positive or negative though? Well, which one's bigger? The 58's the bigger one now, and it's positive, so the answer better be positive. And you should get a positive 17. All right. 36 and negative 27. Signs are different. So we got to subtract. And if we subtract those, we better get 9. And is it positive 9 or negative 9? Well, 36 is bigger, so that means it's got to stay positive. Okay, one more. Negative 20 and negative 47. Ah, signs are the same now. So if the signs are the same, we got to add. And we should get a negative 67. So not anything too drastic. You know, repetition is going to be key. The more problems you do, the more the rules start to sink into your head. So if you're rusty with this stuff, that's okay. Just practice, 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 practice. So, all right, so let's stop there, and then we'll pick up the rest in the next video.